Picture this. You're scrolling through your feed, video after video, post after post, and then you stop. Something made you lean in, something made you watch, something made you feel. What was it? Well, for 22 years, I've been obsessed with that question because I've created television that made millions of people watch and stop everything they do. Duck Dynasty, Intervention, 60 Days In, those shows, they didn't just entertain, they had edge. They made people feel something they could not ignore. But when I left the day-to-day of that world to build my own brand, I discovered something terrifying. Having talent, it's not enough. Having experience, not enough. Even having a great story isn't enough. You need something. You need something else, something that cuts through the noise. You need edge. Let me take you back to a phone call that was a game changer for me. I'm sitting right here in this office. It's been some time since I left the day-to-day of the television world. I'm staring at what was a blank whiteboard behind me, wondering what the hell I'm doing with my life. My wife was probably thinking the same thing. And the phone rings. It's my friend Francis Ablola. Francis is one of the leading sales and marketing and copywriters, and now an AI king with their brand, AI for Business. If you want to know more, just let me know. I will happily send you a link to their next 3-day challenge, completely free. You will be overwhelmed drinking from a fire hose. Just do it. So back to the message. Back to Francis. And Francis hops on the phone. We exchange some pleasantries, and he goes, "Brad, are you leaving TV for good?" Now, Francis has this way of asking questions that feel like they're coming from somewhere deeper. Like he sees something you don't see yet. So I pause because honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea how to answer that question. So I say, "I don't think so." Comes out like a question. I don't think so. Which is always confidence inspiring when you've just left your career, or at least the day-to-day. Then he says something that stops me cold. Good. Because you've got a multi-million-dollar business in your background. I laugh. $1 million business. I'm sitting here in my pajama bottoms, because you see the top, at 2 p.m. I may be eating some breakfast for lunch, wondering if I made the biggest mistake of my life. But Francis, he's not laughing. He's serious. So I start talking. And if you know me, when I start talking, I don't stop. Tell him about Duck Dynasty, how we took a family of duck hunters from Louisiana and turned them into the biggest reality show on television. I tell him about Intervention and how we spent 12 years showing that addiction isn't the end of the story. Families can heal. The hope is real. I tell him about 60 Days In, how we put regular people in jail to really expose what's happening in our jail and prison system. Rambling now, full Brad brain download mode. And I tell him about the obsession I've always had with story. You probably have seen it in these posts. I love emotion. I love taking something complex and make it compelling. I love taking something overwhelming and making it accessible for all of you. I love taking the impossible and making it feel inevitable. Francis, he's just listening. He lets me dump everything I've been carrying around in my head. When I finally stop talking, there's a pause. Then he says 5 words. It changed everything. Maybe more than 5, now that I think about it. He goes, "Brad, sounds like you help people feel seen." Okay, those are 5 words. You help people feel seen. That line hit me like a truck. Help people feel seen. I'd never thought about that way, but suddenly everything clicks. Duck Dynasty was never about just duck hunting, of course. It was about family, about being proud of who you are, even when the world thinks you're just a bit weird and odd. Intervention wasn't just about addiction, it was about love, about families fighting for each other when everything seems hopeless. And 60 Days In wasn't just an entertaining show in a jail, it was about understanding, about seeing people as human beings instead of statistics. Every show I'd ever produce that worked had that same thread through it, making people feel seen, making people feel understood, making people feel like they matter, because they do. That was my edge. That's what I've been doing for my entire career, 22 years, and I had no clue that I was doing it. But here's the thing, knowing you have an edge and being able to use it are two completely different things. Because when I started creating content for my own brand, something was missing. Now, I was vulnerable, I was certainly authentic, and I was sharing real stories from my past, but people didn't know what to do with me. You didn't know what to do with me. They didn't know how to remember me. I had edge. I just didn't have the words to make it stick. I didn't have the product that compelled you to reach out to work with me. I was creating content, but it wasn't cutting through. Certainly not cutting through the noise. And I wasn't making you lean into my message. Then, a few months ago, I walked into a mastermind. AI experts, real estate disruptors, people think in frameworks and systems which I had never thought about before or knew. And as I'm sitting there, I'm listening to these brilliant minds break down their businesses. Something starts happening. All those scribbles on my whiteboard, they started to make sense. All the awkward and disorganized social posts started feeling like there was part of a big picture. All the things Francis had seen in me, I finally started seeing in myself. And reflecting on this journey, here's what I've learned. There's a pattern to edge, a pattern to everything that I talked about, a system to what makes people unforgettable. It's called the SHARP framework. Yes, story that only you can tell. Not just what happened to you, but how you see the world because of what happened to you. Your story is your fingerprint. Everybody has a unique one. What's yours? H, heart that drives everything you do. What's the thing you care so much about that you can't stop thinking about? You can't stop talking about? People are sick and tired of listening to you talk about. Actually, they're probably not sick. They actually enjoy it. That's your heart. That's your fuel. What's the story people can't get enough of? A, your authentic emotion that connects. People, they don't want information. They can get that anywhere. They want to feel something. They want to feel your emotion. And that emotion is what makes them lean in to your story, your message, your business, your product. R, real experience. You need that real experience that shapes your view. Your background, it's not just credentials, it's your lens. It's what makes you see things differently than everyone else. And P, purpose. A purpose that pulls people forward. What change do you want to create? What transformation do you want to spark? That's your purpose. And when you combine all of those 5 elements, something magical happens. You don't just create content. You create connection. You don't just share information. You share transformation. You don't just build a brand, you build a movement. Wouldn't that be cool? Here's what I want you to understand: your edge isn't something you develop someday, it's something you already have. You just need to stop waiting for permission to use it. In my Orlando speech, I wheeled out an empty chair and I called it the chair of waiting. Waiting to feel ready, waiting to be chosen, waiting for that perfect moment. But that chair is a liar. You were never meant to sit and wait. You were meant to stand and lead. Your edge is your competitive advantage in an AI world. AI can create content, but it can't create the feeling you give people when you show up as your authentic self. When you know your edge, AI becomes your amplifier. It scales your story. It turns your uniqueness into momentum. So here's my question. Here's my question for all of you. What's your edge? What's the thing you do that makes people feel seen? If you're ready to discover your complete vibe, VIBE, find your edge, I created the Vibe Finder GPT to help you. 5 minutes is all it takes. Link is in the description below. And tomorrow, I'm going to share how your complete vibe becomes your competitive advantage in an AI world. Because once you have your voice, once you have your identity, once you have your brand, once you have your edge, you don't just survive the future, you shape it. So be unforgettable. Be the $2 bill.